Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Love of Learning. I'm your host, Dr. Carl S. Moore, Vice President of Teaching and Learning at Howard Community College. And as you know, this show is about highlighting our wonderful faculty. Like, we're going to have Dr. Myers speak with us in a moment, and their wonderful programs that they're teaching here at HCC. So, Dr. Myers, Ben, Dr. Myers, Professor Myers, all these names. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, how long you've been at HCC, what program you teach in, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I've been here almost 25 years, and I teach in the music program, and I've loved it. I'm one of the fewer people that are still around from the 90s. I started just at 99, and music department is great, and part of the Horowitz Center activities as well. So there's a good crossover between teaching and also our public face with the Arts Humanities Division.
Great. Now, you just mentioned the Horowitz Center. Now, this is an opportunity to advertise.
Yes.
Because there may be folks that are tuning in who have no idea, have never stepped foot on our beautiful campus. You want to talk a little bit about Horowitz?
Well, Horowitz Center is great. We've got art, theater, dance, music, and there's usually something going on almost every day.
Is there, what's like Horowitz, what's the website for that, for folks to?
Well, I don't know the exact website.
Okay.
Horowitz Center, but if you put in Horowitz Center, Howard Community College,
then
you'll
can
get it.
Yeah.
For music, you would do howardcc.edu/music, and that'll take you there. And you can link to the whole Horowitz Center in general from there.
Okay,
as
wonderful.
well.
Yeah, because I need to do that. That was an honest question for me, not just for the viewers, to make sure that I, staying, because there is so much going on. And I was walking by and I saw like a poster the other day, and I'm like, wow, I need to like put this in my calendar. So, community, we do have a lot going on with our Horowitz Center and in our program. So, the music program, you've been teaching in it since, you said, the late 90s?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about the program. Are there just courses? Is it an actual associate's degree that folks can transfer? Tell us a little bit about
Absolutely. Yeah, so you get an AA in music, and you have different tracks. So people go from here to there. They can go on to music education. They can go to music therapy, music performance. There's a lot you can do. Here you get an associate's in music, but we have a great relationship with all the Maryland schools, and we meet regularly, all the 4 years and the 2 years, the chairs from the different schools, to make sure that our transferability is solid. And we're also accredited by the National Association of Schools of Music, or NASM. And we are one of the very few community colleges in the nation to be accredited with them. And to get that, it's actually quite an honor, because it depends on your faculty, your facilities, and your course offerings. So we're maintaining that. We've been accredited for almost 15 years now. So it's a full-on program, and we offer a lot also non-credit as well. We have a lot of variety there. We have world music, we have Asian American music, African American music, we have jazz studies. We have all sorts of stuff for the person who just wants to get their arts credit, but they're not a music major.
Oh, wow. So if you want to get your art credit, now tell me more about the art credit part.
So gen ed credit,
Oh, right, for the credit for
Right.
for their general education requirements.
Right, and if you wanted it in the arts, I should have put it that way.
Yeah, right.
But you can get it, there's a lot to select from. Of course, we also have music appreciation, which they always have.
Okay.
But we also have something called Fundamentals of Music, which is interesting because it's for the non-major, and it's sort of the engineering of music. Sort of like you take your phone and you can use it, and this is what the average listener is like. They know how to get the music they like and what they like to listen to. Music fundamentals is like a first intro to music theory. So you learn how to take it apart, see what makes it tick, scales and
the fundamentals
of music.
Yeah.
And so it gives you sort of an appreciation under the hood for music, how most music, tonal music, works.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's an offering that you can take. We have one for majors who need it, but we have it for non-majors as well.
That's wonderful. So you can, if you're any other pathway or major degree, then you can actually take that fundamentals, or what are the other options of different kind of courses that they can take to satisfy that gen ed, like the names of the courses?
We have a lot. So we have world music, business of music, music technology, African American music, Asian American music, jazz improvisation.
Wow, it's a wide range.
And also our ensembles, they're for music majors, but also non-majors can participate as well.
I think you taught me about that before during our meeting. That's really exciting. So are they starting from scratch, or should they have a little bit of knowledge about whatever instrument?
So for the ensembles, you would meet with the appropriate coordinator and you'd audition.
So they would
want
have
be
to
at
have a
certain
little bit
level.
a certain level of proficiency.
But
yeah.
you'd be amazed. I mean, people who are majoring in something aside from music, some of them are incredibly skilled and incredibly advanced. And it's great because they'll say, I played trumpet since I was 7 years old, and I just want to keep playing.
Yeah.
Can I just play for you? And you see, go ahead, and you listen like,
Blow
you should
you
be a
away.
music major. You sure you don't want to be a music major?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great outlet for them as well to keep going. And the 4 years usually have something for non-majors as well. So we want to keep up that.
Yeah, and
that
you want to keep
tradition.
cultivating that skill, and wonderful. And you had mentioned that people from our program, students from our program transfer. You had mentioned music therapy as one of those. Well, I was really interested in that. I mean, of course, all the other ones as well. So do they usually know, or is it kind of, how does one decide what kind of other branch they're going to go into?
We found that, well, especially with therapy, people come in, they specifically want to do that.
Okay.
It's a
okay.
relatively emerging field. Music therapy can range from just going to a hospital and playing guitar for people to cheer them up, all the way to like serious work. In fact, I have an interesting story to tell about this.
Yeah.
I had a student whose father is a leading neurosurgeon. And you may recall about maybe 10 years ago, Gabby Giffords was shot, and this is a while ago, and she was saved.
Yeah.
And he was called in like as an emergency because the attending physician knew him. And after the emergency portion was over with, they sent her to a hospital, I believe it was in Houston. And the bullet had gone through a section of her brain which actually affects speech. Mm-hmm. Now, what was interesting was she could understand speech, but she couldn't speak. And so previously, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, that would be it. And you'd have to say, would you like orange juice? Would you like apple juice? And just there would be a nod of the head.
Right.
What they found was the part of the brain where music is stored was not affected. So they brought in some music therapists, and what they taught her to do was sing, well-known songs like Old MacDonald Had a Farm,
Yeah.
but say what she wanted. So she would say, I would like some apple juice.
So the rhythm she was able to...
And she was able to communicate by singing, or happy birthday to you and things like that. And eventually, little by little, she was able to not have to sing. And so she transferred. The brain is amazing. She was able to transfer.
It's amazing.
And the student's father of mine said music therapy saved her. It's thanks to music therapy.
Wow.
So it's an exciting field.
Yeah.
It's an exciting field to be in.
And it's like so the rhythm and the different centers of your brain that you learn when you're learning rhythm, those were activated, but not the speech. Some of that was turned off, and then you combined a little bit.
Gone.
It was
Apparently,
gone.
it just does not exist anymore.
Wow.
But they could reroute. So, from what I understand, from what he told me, and obviously I'm not a neurologist.
No, right.
But he said, the brain can make new pathways. So, because she was able to still sing and she could understand language, they were able to help her create these new pathways.
Yeah, and those new pathways get stronger the more you exercise them. They could be super mighty. That's wonderful. So in your program, what do students love to learn? Just generally, I know there's so many different courses, but what are those?
Well,
maybe
they
it's
love
a
to,
top.
they
Yeah,
love to play their instrument. So
They
they
love
love to
to
play,
give-
and they love to sing.
Okay.
And they love to participate in ensembles, and they love to take our classes as well. But I think what initially brought most of them to it was, just the instrument. And they said, I played in my high school band, or I played in marching band, or I played in the orchestra. And we do our best to advertise, but a lot of people do come and go, I didn't know that there was an opportunity for that here. I said, sure, tell your friends, And they love to play, and they love to keep that up. And our faculty are really excellent. I've got to put in a plug for them.
Yeah, please do.
We have 4 full-time faculty, but we have around 20-something adjuncts. Some teach classes, but we have some that teach a specific instrument. It's kind of funny because we're a little odd in that way where you'll hire one adjunct faculty to teach trombone, and there'll be 3 students or something. But we will take care of them, and the adjunct faculty know their needs. And then sometimes these students, we have students that go on to, of course, mostly the Maryland schools. But with the faculty, the caring faculty that we have, they will often go as far as they want. We have students who've gone to Peabody and to New England Conservatory and Manhattan School of Music and great schools. So that has really been our approach, really an approach of, I call it the 3 E's. It's excellence, equity, and empathy.
Oh, I love that.
So because you see, equity is really important because you'll have someone who's just become interested in music and they're 18. You have to give them what they need. You can't compare them with someone who started when they're 7. You don't
be
say
relative to
right. You don't say so. For someone, you can say on the one hand, okay, let's say a black belt in Taekwondo is better than the green belt, but it isn't because they're inherently better. It's that they just have more years. Usually, they have more years of practice.
Right.
So it's the same thing. So you give them what you need. You approach it in the same way. The excellence part comes in where you say, well, if you want to be a major, there's a standard, and we need to adhere to those standards because of National Association of Schools of Music. That, but then the empathy is like to talk to them and say, you came here because of a love of music. No one is required by law to do music, so you got to approach it this way. You have to say, what is it about it you love? What do you want to do? And what can I do to help you with that? And I think that's really true for the whole performing arts area.
Yeah, I love that. And that's such a it gives them agency, that excellence part. It gives them a chance, an individualized chance, the equity piece. And then it's an excellence, equity,
empathy, and
then empathy. And then it also is so humanizing because of the approach towards them. That goes a long way. That's awesome.
Well, we have to serve our community, and you have, and then also, of course, as you know, you'll have people who come in who are retired, and a lot of times they'll say, I had a student come in once and say, "I'd like to play cello. I'd like to study cello with you." I said, "Sure, I teach cello. So why don't you play a bit?" Played, sounded pretty good. He said, "Well, I'm retired and I haven't had a lesson for a while." I said, "Well, when you say a while, what is that? What do you mean?" He said, 1967. And without thinking, I said, "I wasn't even born." I'm sorry. No, that's fine. That's fine. It's like, that is a while. But they sometimes, those senior citizens sometimes feel like, is it worth it for me to do it? I'm like, absolutely. I mean, this is something you love. The fact that you've come in here to even, you have the bravery to come in and say, I want to take this back up. If you ignore those sorts of people, first of all, you're not serving the mission of a community college.
Right.
Obviously,
that's
at a basic level. But you're not doing that's what I love about a community college, is because you're helping all sorts of people. They can end up at the same place.
That's what it's all about. It's just they needed the opportunity and for the environment to be more what do you call it? Adaptable, because a lot of times the environments at some of the institutions are just so fixed, and it's not the person, it's the structures that doesn't allow for it. So that's pretty cool,
and that's fine for them. So you go I went to New England Conservatory of Music, which is a really high-powered conservatory. It's extremely competitive, and that's good. That's what they should be.
That's their thing, right?
That's what they should.
Now we should be as you described,
But when I was in high school, I took some lessons at my local community college, and they said, if you work hard, you can get there from here. ... Meaning you have to do your part too.
Right.
That's the excellence piece. But if you do that, we're going to help you and we're going to give you what you need. That's the part I love about it.
That's cool. So the students here, so many different courses. Different pathways for majors, as you mentioned. You can be a major, non-major. I have an understanding of like what students love playing their instruments here. What else is there about the program that you think are unique features that would be good? Because there could be a guidance counselor watching this, a mom, a dad, a guardian, or whatever, a parent of any sorts, or maybe a potential student. What are some other pieces that you feel like people can't just read?
Well, one thing I didn't mention also is the non-credit area, which is called the Music Institute. So if you want to not even go through the credit system, you can do that as well. You would go through Con Ed for that. But I think one thing that we offer all our students, which is great, is the faculty who are excellent faculty, and also opportunity. We have the beautiful Monte Barro Recital Hall. We have Smith Theater, and plenty of opportunities to perform, whether you're credit or non-credit. So you can still you have a chance to perform, and exposure to the great artists that come in, and our partnerships like Candlelight Concert Series, things like that, and also sometimes the opportunity to perform with faculty.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it. And if you are thinking about becoming a music major, we have our Friday Performance Lab, which is all the student music majors come together, and the full-time faculty and some part-time faculty, and they perform for each other. So it's sort of halfway between just practicing in your room and like a formal performance. And you get a little critique, and it's very supportive. And also we video record that, and they can go back and review it, and they can review the comments. And if they disagree with the faculty, they can say, fine, I don't, but they get to see what really happened, and they get that experience as well. And I can't stress enough how nice Monte Barro Recital Hall is.
It is really nice, yeah. Well, so digging deeper, you just mentioned video recording, right? So if you're teaching, I could imagine teaching world music around the world, you could put on something and listen to it or what have you. But when it comes to actually teaching the instruments, right? What's the instructional approach? If you're building someone from zero, what are some strategies that you're using? What's the approach so that a person who has never maybe even picked up an instrument knows, hey, this would be the process that they would engage in a class learning about an instrument? And I know it varies per instrument, but just generally and specifically.
Well, so first of all, we do have piano class, so there's actual classroom piano where there's several keyboards set up. You could do that, and we do have guitar class as well. But if you're talking about individual lessons, the teachers we have will do. I do actually. I do a free, not part of the lesson series, sort of an interview. If you can play something, play for me. If not, let's just talk. And I just want to see what you'd like to do.
Okay.
And what are your goals? Because the goals hugely vary. It's like, well, I've allotted 5 hours a day to practice. Oh, okay, that means one thing.
Okay.
Another person will say, I can mostly practice on the weekends, and I, just basically want to get better at my instrument, and it varies. What you don't want to do is go in and say, I have my agenda, and this is what you need to fit into this.
It doesn't work in any area of life.
Not very well.
Not very well.
I mean, with majors, we have standards that we have to meet, but even there's still a lot of flexibility.
100%. Well, you mentioned there's a piano class. What other kind of class? Just
guitar class. So those are the classroom.
So if we're in a guitar class, right? And I think people may think about piano more often when they think about teaching. So what's the approach that a professor is going to be taking to teach guitar to a X amount? What's the size of the class usually around about for?
Small. So, it's usually like 6, 7, 8 people.
Yeah. So how's that professor approach that? Like how would, I know you teach, you play the cello, right? But I know you also are a person of many instruments.
Well, the person who teaches that is Bruce Castile, and I don't know if you met him, but he's an excellent teacher. He is incredibly enthusiastic. And what he'll do is he's got certain goals that he wants everyone to reach, but it's small enough that you do things. So he'll do things together as a class. Okay. Everybody pick this up, and and he'll walk around, adjust your arm and hand position.
Okay.
And I'm going to teach you a chord. But he'll have time to work with you individually as well.
Okay.
So that is a challenge. That's a challenge because some people might join that class having played a lot. But we try to say, okay, well, if you played guitar for 3 or 4 years, maybe it would be better for you to go in for a lesson, private lessons, applied lessons. But in the class, same thing with piano. You try to assess where they're at and how much music theory they may have as well. But there are basic things you can work with, basic goals you have. And then with a small class size like that, that's one of the great things about ACC.
I'm telling you, that is.
You don't have. I had a cello student who was also a professor of psychology at College Park, and he said, he loved it. Don't get me wrong, but he said, Psych 101, you're in an auditorium, you have 300 students, and I don't know who they are. I have 3 TAs to grade their papers and things like that. We do have some students at HCC, as you well know, that have gone there and said everything was great, but I just felt like I
like
just
a number.
got lost.
Yeah.
So I came back here. Okay, come here, get your level 100s out of the way, get your level 200s, graduate, please, graduate. And then go back, and then your class sizes at the level 300s and 400s are going to be smaller. Plus, you have your head
once you get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it must, as you mentioned earlier, it's so individualized. Everyone's at different points. Even if they've both don't have any, they're at different, like, natural kind of, instincts. So it seems like the program really can tend to, with the small class size, those folks, regardless of where they, what their natural, and get them to. Are they getting to the same point, but relative? Are they getting to different points when they in the class, like in piano or?
They'll all get to, assuming they do all the work, they'll all get to the same minimum.
Same minimum.
But if students, there are students who will go, well beyond that.
Wow, awesome.
And we encourage them as well. And of course, we always say, hey, when you're done with this class, we have individual applied lessons.
All right, right. And you also mentioned music theory. Now, if you're explaining music theory, not the entire theory, but
I'll start with
to a 5-year-old. How would you explain music theory to folks? Because we hear music theory. I think I know, but I don't know. Maybe you can teach me. For folks because people are like, I want to play my instrument, I want to play this. But music theory is pretty awesome. It's like the bedrock cornerstone. How would you explain that to the audience so folks can know what they're getting themselves into?
So theory is really the engineering of music. It's like the iPhone example I gave before. So
yes.
you know how to use it, but you don't know what makes it tick, and you don't know how to maybe program an app or something. So we take it apart. So basic theory, you learn scales and intervals and chords and things. And if your main goal is not the theory, but just say non-majors who want to play their instrument better, still in your lesson, maybe 25% to half of the time, the teacher's going to say, okay, this is an A flat. Now the flat lasts for this measure, but it doesn't last. They're going to be explaining theory. Whereas if you've taken at least fundamentals, you've got that covered. So your guitar lesson is just all guitar.
Oh,
so
awesome.
that's an advantage of that. And if you go further with it, you can start understanding how basic harmony works, basic counterpoint. You can start composing yourself. Which a lot of people like to do, and it's good to understand how it all works. Because a lot of people, I'm sure have all said, I'd love to write the great American novel, or I'd love to write a screenplay or something, and then you get into it and you realize I don't know the first thing about
this. And there's a formula to it and everything. So that's awesome. So there's this practice to theory, right, where you're playing, and then there's this theory to practice, and depending upon like the levels, the more you advance, the more you get into understanding the theory,
right?
And that really impacts like how they are as an artist.
So
is it like if you learn the deeper elements of theory later, you become even a better instrument?
I would say so.
Okay.
So most great performers were also composers as well. And so what I say to music majors is when you especially if you're not jazz, because jazz is really hard because you're composing in the moment. Essentially, you just have the bare bones. But if you're a classical musician, you're reading the sheet music. And what I say is that is not music. This is a recipe. Follow it, but that's only 80% of the way there. Now you've got to put yourself into it. Well, what do I do? How do I put myself into it? Think like a composer. What was this composer trying to?
And now you can, that's awesome.
And also that takes away nerves. You say, "Oh, I'm nervous." Well, I say, when you're nervous, assuming you've prepared well.
Yeah, right.
If you haven't prepared, then you should be nervous. But if you've prepared well enough, you should understand. Be like you're talking to a friend. You're saying, "I just heard this amazing piece of music. Would you like to hear it right now? You know what? I'll play it for you. Let me play it for you." You're sharing that music with the people in the audience. You're not. People say, "Oh, imagine that they're all not wearing clothes," or imagine these crazy things. It does not work for me. It's just like, ooh, that's weird. When you're performing, you want to share. You're saying, "This is great music. I want you to hear this amazing piece." So the theory, how that comes in, is that you understand how it's put together, how it's been put together, so you know what you want to see. So we instinctively know how an app ought to work on our phones, and when we get to a bad app, we go, we maybe don't know why, but we're like,
we know this is not. Yeah.
no, it's not right. So when we come up against a great piece of music, we know how it should be because we know the theory. We know what makes it tick, and we know what makes it great.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I thank you for that. And I there may have been a music theory class in my past that helps me even more so than then in terms of it being just not just the abstract, but in informing the actual being a composer, or even when listening to music, right? Being able to be more analyze and break down things a little bit more. So
it's
that's
like
pretty
that
cool.
acting method. I forget. Well, I think it's called method acting.
Yeah, method.
Where you acting method, but it's where you say just. And those actors will stay in character the whole day, even when they're not filming. If they have an accent, they'll keep the accent up, because it's not harder. It's easier to do that because then you're saying I'm being that person. Then it's easier for me to communicate what makes that person tick. And musicians are really communicating a story. My father was a poet, and he told me once. It absolutely shocked me. He said, "If I could do it over again, I'd be a musician." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because to really appreciate my poetry, you have to be able to speak English. And not everyone in the world speaks English. But music is everyone's native language."
Yes. Oh, wow, that is pretty fascinating.
So, I mean, you can appreciate music so you can appreciate it without knowing the theory. You can appreciate it right away. And this is what I say to my students. If you're overly just reading the music, or if you're a jazz major and you're doing formulaic licks and things like that, you're not speaking music as a native.
Yeah, you're not fluent.
Right.
Fluent
so ESL is English as a second language.
Yeah.
You're doing MSL.
Yeah.
Don't do MSL. Speak
it as your
native
first language.
Yeah.
Ah, I love it.
And we all do that.
Yeah.
So I tell my students, I say, the ones who come into fundamentals, some of them are nervous. They're like, "Oh, I've had no training. I don't know. I just love music." I said, all of you speak music as a native language. You've all heard it since you were little. And I even say, if any of you want to take this challenge, it's a horrible challenge, but if you ever want to take it, try to go one day without music. You're going to have to start with earplugs in and never leave your bed. And make sure that your phone, your alarm has no music.
Right.
Because it's all around you. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. Some people say, "Oh, it waters it down that there's music with everything."
No,
it's life. It's part of life.
Yeah. It really exposes the nature of. It's like everything's built off of like rhythm and sound. It's in everything.
And that's true of art. Art as well, and
art
acting.
And everything. Yeah.
Bill Gillette. You spoke with him, and he said everyone should learn a little acting because it's not that you want to be an inauthentic person, but you have different roles that you play. As a teacher, I'm still me. Ask my wife. I don't really. It's just, do you act this way when you teach? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's like me. I'm the same way everywhere. It's like,
just easier.
It's easier. Yeah,
It's just easier.
Yeah.
But how do you deliver it? So I mean, I speak with a lower voice when I'm talking with a friend, but in the classroom, I've got to, and also the pitch range has got to get bigger to make it easier to understand. So art is all around us. It's really a huge part of life. I think a lot more than people even realize.
Well, that was going to be my last question in terms of if a person is, whether they're major, non-major, what is it that they can use from music or their course, or whether they're major in life outside of it? And you just, in terms of a lens for life, another way of being, is there anything else that you would say?
Well, let me turn it around this way. So when I went to my undergrad, I went to a university. I didn't go to a conservatory. And I was required to take art appreciation. And I cannot tell you how much I loved that course. I've got to find that professor and thank her. Because I loved art. I just loved art. I loved going to galleries. But she taught me a different way to look at art through different periods and from different cultures. It just made me appreciate art for the rest of my life. So for people who are interested in just saying, "Oh, man, I met with my advisor here. I got to take something. I'll take an art appreciation or a music appreciation or something." If you really are open to it, it's going to help you for the rest of your life.
Wow, really change your. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let me ask you this: have you ever met someone who said, "I hate music"?
Right.
Have you ever met anyone
No.
that's or I just hate art. I wish it would go away. But
Yeah.
art is everywhere.
It's everywhere, and I think it's beautiful to, as you've outlined the program. There's so much. It's like anyone can find themselves in a space in the program, and you broke down much of how you approach the teaching there, and this is really good. And you mentioned the work for the credit, the non-credit. I think we covered a lot of ground today. So I really thank you for coming, Dr. Myers. This is really great. It's a treat for me, and we thank you for tuning in. So maybe we'll see you in one of our music classes so you have a greater appreciation. And this was The Love of Learning with your host, Dr. Carl S. Moore, and we'll see you next time.